Hey everyone, it's Melanie of Art Studio 320, and this week I have a new project. It's an MCM dresser. It has a few problems, not a lot. It just needs to be refinished, updated, and I probably need to find a way to hide some of its blemishes. I've already started to sand it. I have the drawers left. There are some dents on the drawers, so I'm a little worried about that because, as usual, I want to show as much wood as possible, but I'm not afraid to use paint, so it'll probably be a combo of both. If you haven't subscribed yet, please take a moment and press that red button. You can also follow me on Instagram, and you can find me on Etsy, where I sell some of my past projects that I've done right here on my channel. Stick around. This was a total impulse buy. I saw it at Menards and I thought, I'm going to try it. Well, I mean, it worked. It worked fine, but I don't know that it was magical. I think I will stick with vinegar and water once this bottle is finished. I started with a 120 and went to a 220 grit for the sandpaper just because I was very nervous. Look how thin the veneer is. It was paper thin, and it had some issues that I needed to fix. The thing about using glue on a piece of furniture is you need to take advantage of gravity when you're trying to glue a thin piece back on, especially if it doesn't come off very far. You just stick that glue right in there and push it in, and then you can wipe it off. It's so easy to wipe off. It's okay to use a little bit more. Now, some places like this was the problem throughout the entire piece, was these little slivers that seemed to be just popping up everywhere. And I wanted to try and save as much as possible because once it comes off, it's hard to cover up. If you haven't used these finishing pads yet, I highly recommend them. They are so easy to use and they just give you such a silky smooth finish. Now, this wood that I'm sanding is not in great shape, and the wood in the center there and the base was nothing special. The wood was nothing special. I didn't feel a need to show it off, so I decided the easier thing to do would be to paint it. When you're working with a very thin veneer, you need to take it slow. You need to start with 220 or 120 grit and work your way from there as soon as you feel comfortable, or just take your time. It takes forever, but it would be worth it. I love this color. I've used it many times before. Restoration Bronze is a beautiful color. It's rich and it's an all-in-one. I prefer all-in-ones. Fusion is always an all-in-one, and Melange, you have a choice. I choose one. It's more expensive, but then again, you're not paying the extra for the polyurethane. So it's a pretty good choice, I think. I always find find that after I have painted one coat, you can see the dents and the little imperfections in the wood, and it makes it easier to put some wood filler on there and then just put a second coat after you've sanded a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that, and it actually makes for a perfect finish, or almost perfect. This was one of those rare moments where I had a plan. I thought I was going to have to paint this section because of those scratches. And they came off so easily. They sanded right out, and they were pretty deep. So just make sure you're checking, double checking before you decide that you have to paint it. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just adding a tiny little pinstripe on each side on the back part of the dresser, because that's where there was a lot of damage that I just couldn't repair. And that's all I had to do was paint that little line, and it looks perfect. I keep using the word perfect. I'm not a big fan of perfect, but it did look perfect. Sometimes you need to use some tools to distract from areas that you had to repair. And because these drawers gave me so many problems because the veneer kept splintering on the edges, I needed something that was going to distract. And stencils are one of those things I like to use. This, however, was a little bit more difficult because all of the areas that I had to repair were on the edges. So getting the stencil just right so that it would cover up those edges, as you can see, was a little bit difficult. Now I still have more in my arsenal to help, so this is just the first step to creating a distraction or camouflage, if you will. Now, when you're creating any kind of design, you want to be aware of the whole design. So you want to line up the drawers all together, and you want to create the design as one thing. Even though the drawers are separate, once you put them into the body of the piece, they will be right next to each other. So you need to keep that in mind when you're creating your design. This wood grain was so pretty, and I wanted to show it off, and I liked the color. I was originally going to use more than one color stain, but this time, because I had put some stencils on the drawers, I decided I was going to go simple. So first I used the wood conditioner, and after I put the wood conditioner on, it kind of did the same thing as what happens when you put paint on. You see places where you have blemishes, so it gives you a chance to go back, sand it down again, and then put the wood conditioner back on, and then it looks okay. And you might have to do that a couple of times if you want the best results possible. Now after I put the neutral stain on, I was ready to camouflage a little bit more. So I used some of my darker stains. It really doesn't matter what you use as long as it blends in. Now there's a trick to this and it doesn't always work. You kind of have to dab it, let it sit on there, and of course, you know, I got some stain here and there, but mineral spirits works just fine, so don't worry about that. Once I finished covering up the repairs, I needed to clean up the hardware. So what you do, or what I do, there's a lot of recipes out there, but this one works very well for me. You use a 1-to-1 ratio of vinegar and water. Again, vinegar and water, good stuff. It's cheap, it's easy to use. You bring it to a boil for 20 minutes, and then you let it cool. And then you use steel wool and you just polish it and it comes right off, makes it nice and shiny. And these turned out really nice. It kind of had a coppery color to them. They were very pretty. One of the things I like about using the original hardware is the ease that it goes back on. A lot of times old furniture will just have a funky smell, and this was no exception. So I used Country Chic hemp oil for the insides of the drawers, and I double dosed. I used Big Mama's Butter for the outside underneath so that it would help the drawers go in and out and they would smell really nice. The last thing I had to do, actually I should have done it before I put the hardware on, but doesn't matter. I put a natural stain over the wood after I conditioned the wood. And I like how it looks. It is just the natural color of the wood. I think that the hardware looks nice. It smells nice now. And I will be putting a polyurethane over the top after I wait at least a week. Because I used an oil-based stain and I'm putting a water-based top coat over it, I need to wait a good amount of time before I put that top coat on, or I'm going to have problems. I might have some cloudiness and I don't want that. Well, friends, that's all I have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. I am very happy with the results. There were challenges with this piece. The drawers were splintering on the edges because the veneer was paper thin. I had to work with it in the most delicate way possible and glue it back together, sand it down, and I think for the most part I did that. There were a couple of spots where I couldn't do that, and that's where the darker stains came in handy. I was able to kind of camouflage and use the Bird of Paradise stencils to help camouflage that. If you're looking at it right now, I can't see the flaws. Can you find them? I hope not. Thanks for being here. See you next time.
You can do it.
Tell you everything I've seen, the friends I've made, and then you tell me how you've been. Look a little closer, it's been quite some time. You gotta let me know if I'm out of line. But there's some words that I just wanna hear you say, to put it all straight before this night turns into day, and then I'm on my way. 'cause I'm on my way. A bit naive and so eager to please. You know I played for love, but it got me on my knees. Now's the time to reap what I've sown. Your words echoing in every single